Hey guys, ForTheAfro Reviews here, and today I'll be reviewing Chapter 255 of Seven Deadly Sins. So, in this chapter we get a color page. It's of Margaret, and she's looking fine. She'd be looking a lot finer if she wasn't possessed, but she's still looking good in this color cover. And we actually get another one next week too, so that's gonna be awesome. I hope the next one's of like the sins doing something, or I like the color pages with all the sins on them. Those like big group ones kind of reminds me of One Piece color pages with the whole crew, and I really like those too, and the color walks and whatnot. Anyway, getting into the chapter, we first start off at the Boar's Head, not with Arthur, which immediately killed my hype at first because I was like, no, is this chapter gonna focus on them and not have Arthur? But it did, so I could rest easy there. We have Merlin, who's talking about how she wants to go find Arthur, actually, because Merlin, like me, is kind of fixated on Arthur, and she's talking about this, and Diane's asking her why she wants to do this instead of waiting for the humans and Stigma to like go and invade. Like why do you have to go alone right now? And Merlin's saying that when they go invade, it's gonna be like they're gonna be on guard and stuff. It's gonna be harder for her to search for Arthur, which makes perfect sense. So going now is a good idea, and it's kind of his get out of jail free card for when he starts losing this fight. Escanor is a savage. He's pretty salty about how fixated Merlin is on Arthur. So he says he's very against this. He doesn't want Merlin to be in danger, and he calls Arthur a little kid who can't even wipe his own ass. Wow, that's a lot of salt, Escanor. Goddamn. I know you're prideful, but taking it a little too far there, buddy. Arthur's pretty cool, and he likes you. He likes you just fine. He's not even trying to bang Arthur, I don't think. He just, likes Merlin as like a big sister, pretty much. Escanor. After Escanor, starts roasting Arthur. After Escanor starts roasting on Arthur, Merlin immediately gives him, like, this super mean death glare, like, don't you fucking talk up. Oh, God. After Escanor starts roasting on Arthur, After Escanor just kind of roasts on Arthur for a second here, Merlin gives him the death glare and pretty much shuts him up immediately. Hawk then asks Merlin, hey, why are you so focused on finding Arthur as opposed to like anything else we could be doing to prepare to fight, these crazy powerful threats? And he even mentions that Arthur hasn't opened his magic power yet. He's like, Arthur doesn't even have his magic power, like, why him? And Merlin then responds that he is the child of hope, which is a pretty heavy title. Following this, we cut to a badass panel of Arthur after he pulled the sword. And it's a really well placed panel here. You got Meliodas and Chandler on one side of him of the image here. Like Arthur goes down past all the panels, and then you got a panel of Meliodas, a panel of Chandler, a panel of Vildris, and a panel of Cusack. And I think that's just a really well framed panel. I appreciated that. Chandler, who actually hasn't seen Arthur yet since Arthur avoided him last chapter, asks Cusack, hey, who's that guy with the weird aura? And I don't think Cusack responds to him, now that I think about it. Arthur then is talking to Meliodas, and Meliodas mentions that his eyes have changed. He looks like a totally different person, to which Arthur retorts immediately, like, yeah, you've changed too. Like, you're a totally different man, same to you. Meliodas and Zeldris are then quickly discussing that his aura is really weird. It doesn't feel like a goddess clan or the demon clan, and he's obviously not a giant or fairy, so they're like, kind of wondering what's going on here. Turns out that it's pretty much just human energy. It's just like a big mass of different kinds of human energy, so it just became like a strange aura. And I think that's cool. I think it's cool that Arthur's power-up is human-based rather than being like derivative of like the goddess clan, like I thought it was going to be since the Holy Sword. Arthur declares that he's going to slay Meliodas and his followers as well as reclaim his kingdom. And I think it gets on Chandler's nerves because he instantaneously just closes in on Arthur and points with his magic staff and goes, Extermination Ray, which, quick side note, is a really cool name for an attack. It looks like just like a regular magic pulse, like it doesn't look like it has any kind of attribute or anything to it. Big magic blast though. And then the next page, actually you would expect Arthur to, like blocking it or, something like that, but no, it's just a page of Chandler cut in half, like just completely, and Arthur's unscathed, and he says not to underestimate humans. So he's on one right now. He is on one. He is doing good. Before I get any more into this chapter, actually, I want to mention real quick, I really, really enjoyed this chapter, like, reading through it and whatnot, and even on my second and third read-through, I really liked it. Like, the whole chapter was enjoyable, but I'm calling BS. Arthur is way too strong. Like, I know it's technique-based and blah, 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 but I just don't see it, guys. He's doing way too good. Like, against one of these demons, this would all make sense. If it was just Zeldris, or just Cusack, or just Chandler, but he's, like, bitch-making all of them at the same time. It's a little ridiculous. Anyway, after this, he continues to just run through them. He cuts off Chandler. He cuts off Cusack's arm that's holding Kath, because he wants to save Kath immediately. He gets him in his arms, you know, and Cusack is just really confused. He's like, what just happened? Like, my arm is gone. And Chandler's destroyed over there, the napping demon. I don't know what's going on here. He recognizes his technique, though. He's, like, confused as to why he has this swordsmanship. Although Arthur doesn't give him a lot of time to wonder about it, because he cuts him in half immediately after cutting his arm off. Arthur goes for a couple bigger slashes. You know, he's, like, sending him kind of, like, waves and stuff, and, like, of air pressure, I'm assuming. And he, like, blows everyone outside. He's, like, talking to Kath, kind of putting them down. Kath mentions that he's hungry, and that's kind of funny. Seeing him do that makes me kind of think, hey, you know, I bet you Hawk and Kath would get along just great. I mean, maybe Kath doesn't like leftovers like Hawk does, but they both like eating. I think they could bro out. Hope we see that at some point. See why we wouldn't, now that Kath is getting kind of like, he's got a little fan base now, I would assume. I don't know. He has at least one fan. This guy. So, while Arthur's talking to Kath, Zeldris actually attacks him, and without even thinking, like, just nonchalantly, just, like, blocks it. Just, like, sword back here, just blocks it and, like, throws it, you know, completely deflects the blow. And that's where I kind of started being like, okay, I was already on the fence with the whole you taking out two of the strongest newly introduced demons, like, ever, like, the trainers of the crazy sons of the Demon King. But you didn't even look, Arthur. You didn't even look to block that attack. And it's not like he blocked it and then was sent flying and just didn't take any damage. No, he just stood there, took it, and deflected it. Like, I'm enjoying it, but that seems kind of BS. That seems like BS. Apparently, the only reason that he could do this block, though, was because he was doing the dance of Avidya? I think that's how you say it. He was doing this crazy dance blind swordsman of the distant past made up, though, and it's basically that blocks him from any surprise attack. So the fact that he wasn't taken by surprise, I'm okay with. It's just that on top of that, it's Zeldris hitting him. Like, he still should be way weaker physically. Like, he shouldn't be able to trade blows with these guys. He should be able to dance around them and dodge all their blows, maybe, but I don't know. Just completely, like matching up to them in terms of strength, that seems a little to me. But yeah, we'll continue with the chapter. Still enjoyable, still a good fight. After using this dance, he follows up with he calls it Death Pecker, which is a sword technique from the War King Tartenos. Yeah, my notes are over here. He gets it from War King Tartenos, and it's like basically a jab that with a bunch more jabs. He's like, by the time he hits one time, he's already hitting another time, and all the kind of momentum just keeps sending Zeldris back. It looks like a pretty strong attack. That makes sense. If Zeldris isn't hurt, but he gets sent back, some of his borderline makes sense, but it's just BS enough that I have to call it. You know what I mean, guys? We also get a brief mention that the techniques used on Chandler and Cusack were from Swordsmaster Carfin, who is actually the first owner of this legendary sword. We cut to Merlin, who actually explains this in detail. She mentions that Swordmaster Carfin got this from a princess of a certain spring, and I think that the fact that we got a vague, name of the spring, a certain spring, not just like Holy Spring or something. He could have gave it like some name, but instead he picked a certain spring, so maybe that'll come up later, maybe it won't. But he got the sword, and upon dying, because he was a legend, but everyone dies eventually, so when he was going to die, he rubbed his blood into the sword, and his soul also seeped into it, and it kind of it just took on his will and his essence. So he passed it to his successor, and the successor then did the same when he died, since he inherited his will, and it just kept on going and going. and apparently the sword just accumulated all this power. And I think we can explain the sword's abilities kind of like a combination of two other abilities that we've seen in other media. One being My Hero Academia, One for All, kind of stockpiles power as each user uses it, since that's the only way to justify Arthur's just ludicrous power jump, is that he's getting their power too. He has to be, because humans just aren't that strong, like, at a base level. And then I think it's also kind of like the Avatar state from Avatar The Last Airbender. And the reason I say that is because in that series, the Avatar state lets you tap into the skills and the technique and knowledge of all the past avatars, at once, and lets you do crazy stuff. So, in the same way, Arthur's tapping into the techniques and the skills and knowledge of all these past swordsmen and stuff, not just their power. And that's why he can do like this crazy dance and how he was able to wreck Chandler and Cusack and the Death Pecker, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a cool concept and I really like it. I just wish he was toned down a little bit. I still got my BS meter up, guys. Like, it seems like too much, but I do like the sword and the idea of it, that skills and techniques are an integral part of why he's so OP right now. Like, that makes a lot more sense, and it's why I kind of could still enjoy the chapter without just being like, oh, okay, this is terrible. Like, I don't think that at all, because of the technique part specifically. Meliodas and Zeldris are still trying to hit Arthur here, and he's actually dodging both of them at the same time now, and then he hits Zeldris, and Meliodas, for the first time, actually looks a little surprised, like, like, I wasn't expecting that. So, I think he's a little bit stronger than Meliodas was expecting, even though I think he's still well under Meliodas, because he kind of has to be. A soul of Meliodas is just way too hacked otherwise. It wouldn't make sense for Arthur to be above him right now, I don't think. So, yeah, he's pretty surprised, and we see him do a slash on Meliodas, actually, and then him flying. So I'm assuming he blocked it with his darkness or whatever, so he didn't get cut in half. But he gets sent flying, and the cut reminds me a lot of Dragon Ball Z, like when Trunks come and cut Frieza in half. Like, it's almost exactly the same. Compare like the anime shot to like this panel, or the manga panel to this panel, and it looks identical, which is cool. A little inspiration there. I always like seeing shouts out to Dragon Ball Z, the OG Shonen series, in one of the OG's Shonen series. Merlin mentions that Arthur has been acknowledged by the heroes of Britannia's past, and that he's a king among kings, which is just a really cool title to hear Arthur have. I'm glad that he's finally getting payoff. He's been hyped up since like chapter 60, 70, somewhere around there, when he fought Hendrickson. So I'm really glad that he's finally getting some of that payoff. It's all seems really sudden. I mean, I know he got a little jump when you could take on the demons after that little time skip, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot to be taking on these guys. If you took on maybe Gown or something and just completely wreck them like this, that would make more sense, because he's at like 26,000. But Cusack and Chandler, their power levels are astronomically higher. So I don't know. Little weird, but still a good chapter overall, I think, as far as like the fight goes and enjoyment factor. So I don't know. Hoping that this maybe gets a little nerfed later. Maybe there's like only so long that he can use the Holy Sword, or he gets really exhausted or something. I don't know. Just a tiny nerf, because everyone's power level is getting higher in the series, so I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue going forward. It's just at the moment it seems like kind of like BS. If Bond comes back and is stronger than Arthur, I'm totally okay with it. Let me put it that way. I just need Bond to stop being so irrelevant, so Arthur can't be this strong. Anyway, enough joking. That's pretty much it for my chapter. Like, comment, subscribe if you like the video, and please spread the word of my channel. The more people that subscribe, the better. I would love to get some growth and be able to bring more people my content. Yeah. So until next time, guys. See ya.